Hi, my name is Krista.
My name is Sujan, and so
Today we're going to be talking about fair fighting. Alright, so should we get right into it? Or do you
yeah,
want to talk about what we're making first?
yeah. So I don't know. This is like our first go at this. So really, we're just like, what's something really easy that we can do while we talk? So I think these are like keto bars. We're trying a new diet, right? And
So these are vegan keto bars. And yeah, we'll see how it goes. These are hazelnuts. We're going to use a cup of hazelnuts. We're going to use 1 tablespoon of cacao powder. I would say like half. I don't even know. What is this? It's supposed to be 1/4 of a cup of like monk fruit powder. We didn't have that, so we are using stevia. And then we also have, let's see, 1/3 a cup of almond flour.
Almond
I've
flour.
never used that before, so I don't know. Also, a tablespoon of coconut oil. Oh no, we used 2 tablespoons of coconut oil because we forgot to get some sort of nut butter. So yeah, I don't even know if this is gonna work, but we'll see. I'm sure it'll be delicious regardless. Oh yeah, and we added some chocolate chips, some like monk fruit vegan chocolate chips, and they are delicious. Like, definitely go buy them.
Can you see that?
We are not sponsored.
Yeah, we're not sponsored, but
Go
I mean,
buy
it
them.
seems like a cool product. That's all.
Right. Okay, so we're just going to blend this all up, or you could use a food processor. And then we are going to transfer it to a pan. We are supposed to line it according to the instructions, but we don't have paper or like baking paper. So we just greased it. Fingers crossed, we'll see what happens.
Wild shot in the dark here.
Right. And then after that, we are going to, either blend this. Unfortunately, we forgot our food processor. So we're gonna blend this and then transfer everything from the blender onto that pan. And then we're going to refrigerate for a minimum of 1 hour. We're gonna top it with some hazelnuts and then see what it tastes like, I guess. Okay, so I guess we should start talking about fair fighting while you like scrape all that into, the pan. So having an argument doesn't really have to go as far as like, I don't know, you see it on TV or probably even experienced in your own lives. I know we've experienced it in the beginning of our relationship. We are both very like headstrong and determined. I'll frame it as being very determined and adamant people.
Positive regard.
Right, that's a reframe. But yeah, we're probably a little bit hard-headed. So we used to argue quite a lot, but we've been together for like almost 13 years. So most of our adult lives. So we have learned a lot during that time. So the first fair fighting rule is, before you begin, ask yourself why you're upset.
Yeah.
So
It's like checking in, because it's like, if you just go out there and you're just like, man, this one thing just did it all for me, and you take it out on someone else, it doesn't even make sense, right? Like,
right, like why are you feeling what you're feeling?
Yeah.
So just taking a step back and assessing the situation. Okay, I'm experiencing some anger right now. Am I projecting it onto a person, specifically my partner or partners? Or, is this really an issue we need to work at? So, like, I know you gave an example about sometimes, all the time, I leave the trash bins outside for a long time. Like, our HOA hates us, and like, hi HOA.
work from home has not been kind.
Right. I forget to go outside, so like I drag the trash cans out there, and then I leave them for a few days. So you come home and you're just like huffing and puffing about the trash cans, and I'm like, whoa, bro. So like, can you tell me a little bit about that? Like, why you come in? Like,
But
in a huff?
like everybody else, I have a high stress job. I love it to death, but it's a very creative job which has its own problems. And so I feel frustrated already, when I get home. And then when I see those trash cans, it's like, that's the last thing. That's my 13th reason, like and I just, it's hard to remember that it wasn't this one incident that did it. It's compounded things, and if I don't check in and if I'm not real with myself and I'm not like, all right, today was just a wild day. Today was just too much. And I take it out on her, she's not going to understand why. And automatically that's going to put her on a defensive because rightfully so, right? Because she doesn't even know what's going on. I'm just coming home and I'm really upset about something that is just so little. Like, hey,
it seems pretty mundane.
It's almost insulting because we have the ability to take in garbage cans. You know what I mean?
Right.
Like we have, I don't know, just first world problems.
Right. So, I mean, it sounds like what you might be saying, or what I'm hearing, is that you need to check in with yourself. I need to check in with myself. Everybody needs to check in with themselves. See, why am I feeling upset? Why am I angry? Does it really have to do with the superficial thing, or is it a bigger issue that we do need to address? Come back over here. This feels weird. Yeah.
And what she just did there, what they just did there was a way of confirming, you know, what I was saying. And that's a really important tool too, is to restate, you know, what you think you believe you hear, because sometimes, you know, whether you're stressed out or the specific conversation has you like maybe a little scrambled in your head, it's good for your partner, whoever that is, whoever they may be, to let you know what they heard, so that if it wasn't the point, they can reframe. So that's
Right.
a different tool in itself, right? Like,
Right.
not really a part of this, but also a part of this.
Right. It's called active listening.
There you go.
So I'm checking in with you, like what I'm hearing,
Yeah.
and then you can clarify if it's incorrect. Because sometimes we say things and it just doesn't come out the way that we hear it or the way that we intended it.
Right.
So I think it's really good for us to clarify like what I'm hearing is, and then you can be like, oh, no, my bad, that's not what I meant. Let me try something else.
There was this one time when Sari was trying to end us.
Oh my gosh.
and dude,
It was
the FBI, somebody was trying to end us, and like it sent this message, and I like called her, and I was like, she's like, whoa, bro, that wasn't even me, and I sent a picture, and she's like,
oh my gosh. And I was driving. Like, how could I send this like elaborate text message? And it even had a timestamp that was like incorrect. So our FBI agent was like super bored or something. Or Verizon. I don't even know what our phone plan was. T-Mobile. But yeah. So then also, sorry, we get sidetracked a lot, but we have fun. So we wanted to talk a little bit about like the anger iceberg. So going back to before you begin, ask yourself why you're upset. Anger tends to be like a superficial emotion. It's the first thing that we tend to go to when we're feeling defensive, because it's protective.
like,
But
an example to this right here would be like, if you have a kid or you're watching a kid and like they do something wild and reckless, and like you run over to them, you're like,
what
and
the heck?
you know, and then 2 minutes later you're like, I'm not mad at you, I was just scared.
Right.
That anger is the first response.
Right.
That is like, and it happens for whatever reasons,
Right.
you know?
Right. So we have this anger iceberg in the oceans right here. This iceberg like is sticking out of the water. Beautiful. It's sticking out of the water. Like we all know that the iceberg goes further down, right? So we have anger up here, which is what we're displaying. And then we have all of these other underlying emotions like hurt, like disappointment, sadness, loneliness, all of that stuff that we can experience even when we're in a relationship. I mean, obviously we're going to hurt each other's feelings sometimes.
And then there's the outside world too, right?
Yes, we bring that home sometimes. It's hard.
More often than not. I
Right.
mean, especially like we've been together for 12 years. It's like
Almost 13.
almost
You're right.
almost 13. See, look, we're about to
Right, that's a thought. But yeah. Okay. Cool.
But yeah.
Can we? I think we can move on to the next one. So the next one is to discuss one topic at a time.
Oh, we just failed.
We just totally messed that up. But we're not in an argument.
But we
So
go into a tangents together.
we
though.
do. We're kind of a mess, but we're like also really healthy. So we're like goals, but also like not. So discuss one issue at a time. So arguments can be really productive. They can be a chance for us to get to know each other.
Never run away from a healthy argument.
Right. We've learned so much. And I love her because I love the way that she sees the world. It's so different than the way that I see the world. And like, I couldn't imagine being with someone who was just like me. That would be weird. But yeah. So Go ahead, baby.
Also, people are in a relationship. If you're, in my opinion, the part I love about our relationship, I don't know about everybody, is that I've fallen in love with 100 different versions of the same person.
Same.
But to hold the expectations and to not constantly check in to see how they feel on a certain subject, or just where they're at, and just asking like even the most basic questions like what's your favorite movie,
Right.
It could totally be different. You're like, oh, that's not the same person that I fell for, or
Right.
those aren't the same people that I fell for,
Right.
whatever your relationship dynamic looks like.
Right.
And just constantly checking in and making sure that
On the same page.
you're leveling up together. You want to build an empire together,
Right. And I think that's a really important thing, is just allowing people the space to become whoever they're becoming and evolving into whoever they're evolving into. Like, I feel like that's a beautiful thing to witness, and I've witnessed that a lot with you, and it's been an honor. And like you said, I've dated a million Sujins, and like I've liked most of them.
But here's the thing, is that when sometimes the journey is a little rough and you have to make a few bad moves, and I made a few bad choices, like as far as like who I aligned myself with.
Oh yeah.
And we've gotten into some arguments, but they needed to happen because every time we have those arguments and she checks me on stuff that maybe, because honestly I'm ignorant sometimes.
Me too.
And I'm willing to learn, and she gives me not only a safe place, but she's not afraid to kick me. You know what I mean?
Same.
Like she puts me in check.
Same.
And not physically, but.
But you're not afraid to call me out too, and a lot of people are intimidated to call me out, so I appreciate that.
Any chance that I have with you to have like a really challenging conversation, I'm like, okay, let's get her done. But I always know that in the end I'm gonna learn something.
Right, that's awesome.
Yeah.
I love that. High five. Okay, so the third one is no degrading language. So that's kind of self-explanatory, right? So I'm not going to get upset and call you names, because that's going to put you on the defensive. And if you're in the defensive mode, you're not going to be open to hearing anything that I'm telling you. So the productivity level of this potential conversation, this argument, just goes way down, right?
Right.
It ends up just you being like, oh, blah, blah, blah. And this doesn't happen. We don't call each other names unless they're...
Hell yeah, we do. What are you talking about? She's lying.
What?
She's
No,
lying
we don't.
to
We don't. What do we call each other? I don't know. Anyways, I don't know what she's talking about. I have no idea. But... Are you trying to drown me out? This is rude. Okay, Sia just called her rude. That's what I called her. So yeah, no degrading language.
I rolled my eyes, by the way.
And I think you made a good point earlier that like it doesn't necessarily mean like no cursing, because sometimes that's just like what we use for an exclamation point. Like some people are just like interjection with the F word. But we have to make sure that it's not directed at a specific person, because I mean those are fighting words sometimes, like for real.
Yeah.
Okay, let's see.
And also then at that point, when you're like using certain language directed at another person, you know that you've already kind of like broken the first rule of fair fighting, which is checking in with yourself.
Right.
You know, because if you're just letting them fly out of your mouth like that, it's like you're not aware of yourself anymore. You've officially reached like the zone where you're limbic.
Right, you're just
You know
not.
what I mean?
You're just fighting.
Responsive. You know?
Right. So there's a difference between reacting to something and responding to something. So if we're in this headspace where we are reactive, or we're feeling activated or triggered, whatever you prefer to call it, we are just going to see things as a trigger and react without thinking, because we're in our like lizard brain. And so we're not dealing with this like executive functioning part of our brain. We're just freaking out at people. And usually the people closest to us get it the hardest, unfortunately. So it's really important, like Sue said, to just check in with yourself and
throughout the whole entire conversation.
Right. Make sure you're in a relaxed muscle body. Release any tension you have, because, you know, sorry, we have like designated sides. We've had them like since we've been together. So like this, I don't know, just get used to it. So there's a difference between reacting and responding. So if we can be in a relaxed state, if we can be mindful about what we're saying, we can choose to show up in the world the way that we want to, instead of just bouncing around and saying this and saying that. I can choose to show up. I can be in my integrity. I can be the person that I want to be because I'm thinking instead of just shouting things. Okay. So this one's hard for me, but express your feelings with words and with I statements. Well, I'm really bad at I statements. So I statements are great. So I feel blank when blank, right? Those are difficult for me.
Why are they difficult?
I think I just didn't grow up with that. Like, I don't know. We just never had those conversations.
She's the youngest child, no accountability.
Oh my gosh, rude. So I statements are great because they do hold you accountable for what you're saying and for your feelings, instead of me just projecting and just saying, you always do this, you. I have to take responsibility for my own words, my own feelings. And sometimes it can put you in a position where you want to respond because you want to be mindful about, what you're saying.
And then there's like also the flip side to that, where it's like if you use I feel statements, like it's harder to argue against it,
Right.
because you can't argue against someone's feelings.
Right.
So it's like I feel like, and you can like, it could still have a little bit of a sting to it, but it's like, I feel betrayed or I feel taken advantage of.
Right.
It's like, yeah, you can say, the other person might be able to say, I don't understand how you could feel that way, but you cannot say you cannot feel that way. And if it gets to that point, then you might be in a toxic relationship and you should really consider looking deeper into that.
Right, that might take doing some work.
Yeah.
And I think it's really cool because it gives us a chance to learn to identify our
Feelings.
emotions and our feelings too, because we don't learn that in school, right?
Iceberg.
Right, exactly. What's going on below the surface?
Yeah.
Or just be able to identify feelings other than happiness, sadness, anger, like the basic stuff that we learn as children. It's really important, and it helps with our emotional intelligence, and it's good.
And it makes you feel good too, because living angry all the time is just like, it's just not the way.
Right.
I mean, even if it like feels powerful,